Hey, this is Rich Peterson with Remax Gold, and I have absolutely no way of knowing if I'm live because I'm using a new system. But anyway, I wanted to thank you for joining me today for Ask Me Anything Wednesday on Facebook. As you may or may not know, each week I'm looking to address questions that I get from folks who who drop some DMs, while also imparting some knowledge to the general public. Because as you know, buying and selling a home can be both equally overwhelming and exciting. And my goal is to really help you navigate the ups and downs of the purchase process by giving you as much insight as I can before you get into contract or put your home on the market. I do get asked by people all of the time, is now a good time to sell, especially with the holidays coming up? And then also, since it's the middle of the month, I thought I'd take a moment to look at the overall health of the market in the region, because there is so much disinformation out there that it's kind of mind-boggling. That it really feels like the bottom has fallen out of the market. And as I like to point out in my weekly Monday blog, still every week homes are being bought and sold. Between Sonoma, Solano, and Napa counties, 145 homes closed escrow in the last week. And that's 290 families that get to start a new adventure. That's 290 families that get to build their own American dream. And I think that's pretty cool, actually. Nevertheless, I'm not a Pollyanna. I do understand that the housing market isn't perfect. And in fact, there is actual depreciation in many of our kind of micro markets in the region. The good news, though, is that this depreciation isn't nearly as rapid or as steep as the appreciation that's happened over the past couple of years. There's a quote from Redfin's deputy chief economist Taylor Marr that says, "For those bearish folks eagerly awaiting the home price crash, you'll have to keep waiting. As much as demand is pulling back, supply is as well, and reducing downward pressure on prices in the short run." So let's focus on that. Reducing downward pressures on prices. So it's not completely eliminating that pressure, mind you. If you're trying to sell your home right now, you're still feeling that depreciation and deceleration really pinch. This is particularly true for what we call starter homes. These are those 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,100 to 1,400 square foot homes. And I did talk about this a couple weeks ago on my podcast. Really, because of zoning restrictions, building standards, etc., it's no longer viable for many developers to build some of these smaller homes. The problem is that the buyers for these entry-level homes are particularly susceptible to the whims of the mortgage rate gods. And so as the 30-year fixed rates bobble up and down, it plays havoc with these poor buyers. They have to plan conservatively, right? And what I mean when I say conservatively, it means that they have to look at homes that really are at a lower price point. And so it means that many of the starter homes that had prices rising to the mid to upper 600,000s are now out of reach for these first-time home buyers and these move-down buyers. Because of like how chaotic the mortgage situation's been. And this is especially true in American Canyon, Vallejo, Fairfield, even parts of Santa Rosa. And it's really driving some of these older entry-level homes downward faster than the rest of the market. For example, the Rancho Del Mar area in American Canyon. Home prices were up to 580s, 590s, and now they're $470, $490 for these, again, starter homes. And so they're kind of dragging the market down a little bit. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac both think that there's going to be some price depreciation in 2023. And that first-time home buyer market, it seems to be getting a head start this fall. But there are two pieces of good news. First, the higher-end properties, these are homes that are built within the last 20 years or so, they really are retaining most of the equity that they've accrued for the past 2 years during the pandemic era. And then second, most economists think that 2023 is just kind of going to be a blip in the radar, and that the real estate market will start appreciating again in 2024 and beyond. So it's important to remember, however, that even though home prices may be down from October 2021, the median sales price is still 14.1% above where it was in 2020. I didn't even look at 2019. So again, even though the median sales price slipped about 2% year over year, there's still quite a bit of equity built up over the last 2 years. We do know that mortgage rates respond to inflation, as evidenced by the temporary drop at the end of last week on better than expected inflation report. Of course, that was short-lived, but still, it's difficult to predict with any accuracy where the mortgage rates will be at this time next year, or even where they'll be next March, which is typically the beginning of the spring selling season. Generally speaking, mortgage rates do track with inflation. So we are expecting to see the Fed continue to pursue higher short-term borrowing rates until inflation is tamed. With that said, Greg McBride, Bankrate's chief financial analyst, said that, quote, "We're likely to feel the pain of a slower economy before we see the gain of lower inflation." So what's my point for saying that? Really kind of beginning with the ending in mind, as the saying goes. Going back to our previous question, is now a good time to sell? There are still homes being bought and sold, and how you position yourself in the market and what you're willing to accept for your home may be the big question. We are still in a seller's market. There are still almost no homes, especially compared to 2019. The average time it takes to get a home into contract is 45 days. This is still a pretty fast market, historically. The last 2 years aside, from the time you put the home on the market to time to close, that's pretty fast. And the fact is, there are still buyers out there. Millennials really are the driving force in the real estate market today. There are almost 80 million of them nationwide, and a significant number of them work in the tech and finance industries, which, as we all know, there's a lot of that in the Bay Area. We all know how expensive housing is down in the South Bay and the Peninsula. So several of those, I feel so old, several of those kids find their way to the North Bay every weekend looking at open houses. I see them, I meet them. There is still a shortage of homes on the market due to 15 years of underbuilding in the region. New construction in American Canyon and Fairfield notwithstanding. So in fact, total units for sale were down 18% from October 2019, and there were over 20% fewer new listings this last October than there were 3 years ago. Now, even though we don't have enough homes even though we don't have enough inventory for everybody, sellers just can't. We're not in the put the sign in the ground market. Sellers really do have to do some work to get their home into contract. And curb appeal is oh so important. You have 3 seconds from the time someone gets out of the car to get them hooked. You have even less time than that to when they're taking a look at the photos online to make them even want to drive over there to get in the car. So curb appeal is extraordinarily important. Do the little things. Clean up the front yard, mow the lawn, get your trees trimmed. Inside, get the carpets cleaned. Right? At a minimum, get the home power washed so that it looks, or the outside of the home power washed, so that it at least looks like you made an effort. Stage the inside, and really I'm talking declutter as much as anything else. Do the dishes before a showing and get out. Don't stay there. Don't talk to the potential buyers. And with all of that being done, make sure that the home is priced appropriately. We really are in a decelerating market. The temptation is to put the home at the top of the range, especially if you bought any time in the last couple of years, because you're trying to you want to get your money back, and it's totally understandable. But really, my advice is to shoot for the middle to the low end of the range. The comparable properties or sales that you and your agent are looking at really reflect active listings 2 to 3 months ago, and so much has changed since then. So that's all for this week's Lunch Bites. I look forward to seeing you next week with something that is completely and totally unrelated to the real estate market, but we'll be sure to knock your guests off for Thanksgiving. Yep, you're going to see me cook. As scary as that might be for you, it's going to be yummy for my guests.